Yeah, I think you guys are mentioning a few things I want to call out. The first is that it does feel like, for a very long time, like, you did need to know computer science and coding to develop applications, to develop a website, and then you had kind of like drag and drop, and we had like that era. And now it does really feel like English language is becoming the new coding through natural language prompting. And so it feels as though you're enabling people to do a lot of things. And of course, when you get to enterprise applications, there's a lot more rigor around things. But from like a basic capability standpoint, I think people shouldn't underestimate, and business owners shouldn't underestimate kind of the capability that they have to build applications, build websites. Another use case you guys talked about, I think that was really key, and Meg, I think you mentioned this, is around data analysis. I do think that data analysis is actually a really, really good one. And whether you're using an existing application, like a Microsoft application or something, like, I remember when it was like such a flex to know how to use Excel. Like such a flex, And like you could get a job, you could impress your boss, like you could be the person at the company, right? Like this
macros?
It's like this person knows everything about Excel. Like they're doing the tables, they can do lookups, they can do all this stuff. Like forget about it. Copilot's does all that now. And so there's just so much that I think can accelerate. I was curious because we've been talking a lot about the technology portion, and I think, it's clearly demonstrated that technology has some amazing output. But Jason, we were talking about this before. It's really not, in the technology space, we say people, process, and technology. Technology comes last. And often what you find in these revolutions, in these kind of like big waves that we're in, is that whether they're small, medium businesses, it's actually the problem isn't technology. The problem is people, like to the point Jason was making before, they're either scared, they don't know how to adopt it, and people don't really know how to train for it. So I was curious on people and process, if you all had thoughts. I mean, you're all dealing with it in some capacity. How do you drive that aspect? How do you drive the change management aspect?
Yeah, I can start off here. So, I mean, look, first it's about the strategy, right? So, and I'm going to take it a little bit more because when you're a small business, it's a little bit different when you get to the medium-sized and the large companies. So I'm going to focus a little bit about kind of how the medium and large-sized companies kind of operate. So the first is a business strategy, right? So aligning to what the business strategy is. So as an organization, what is your vision for the company, right? What is your mission? What are your values, right? Once you've kind of defined all of that, it's about how do we bring that to life to make sure that we're delivering the best value for our customers, okay? And then what kind of employee experience do we need to create, or what kind of culture do we need to create in order to deliver to that customer experience, in order to realize our vision and our mission, right? So the first thing is you've defined all of that. Now, once you've started to define what that ideal customer experience is, now it's about how do we deliver that. So what you do is you start to look at all of the different touch points, right, that your customers have with your organization. So when I say a touch point could be going to your website, going into your store, calling you on the phone, right? These are different interactions that you have with customers. Marketing is a touch point, right? Somebody being exposed to your advertising, somebody seeing your ad on Google, right? Those are all touch points along across the customer experience. Now, you want to understand, where the biggest challenges are across that, we call it customer journey, to figure out what you need to innovate, right? To improve the customer experience as a means to deliver to your goals and ultimately yield more profitable outcomes, right? Now, when you get to that point, right, you really need to start thinking about, well, how do we need to now activate our people? So how can we best support our people to deliver the best results and have them do the best jobs they can do within their respective roles? Now, there's a process that's usually laid out in terms of how different departments interact with each other, how different teams interact with each other. Now, you can bring in the technology piece, right? The technology piece now is about how do you start to build the infrastructure to be able to enable these processes and enable the behaviors and practices of the employees, right? To be able to do their jobs in the most effective and efficient way in order to deliver to the business goals and outcomes. This is usually where everybody thinks about AI and says, we'll bring in AI to create greater efficiency. We'll bring in AI because it'll help increase our profit margins. However, it's people that have to use those tools. It's people that have to implement them. It's people who have to understand how this is going to impact what they do on a day-to-day basis. And where we see companies fall down every single time is not engaging the employees in the change process, right? When evaluating and implementing these tools. So the first thing you need to do is meet with your employees. Figure out what their pain points are. What are their challenges? Where are they spending most of their time? and then co-create with those employees around how AI perhaps can make their jobs easier, make it more efficient, help create more value throughout the entire supply chain, right? And we've got to remember, people are feeling threatened by AI. You know, people are not excited about AI coming to their companies, right? They're worried about their jobs. And guess what? You know, I'm not as optimistic. I actually am a little more pessimistic. I do think like AI is going to eliminate a lot of jobs. And it is something that's it's a reality that everyone is dealing with right now, including companies who are trying to think about how to increase efficiencies while also giving their employees some reassurance that, hey, this is not going to eliminate your job. So there is a resistance there, right? There are resistances to people wanting to use these types of tools in organizations because they feel it diminishes their value, right? And their purpose in their particular role. So it is important for leaders as organizations to make sure you're engaging your teams and demonstrating the value that it's going to provide for them as an employee. What's in it for them? Why is this important for them? Why is it going to help them, right? Because we do know that those who can adopt AI the fastest are the ones that are going to excel in the workplace, right? Dismissing it or ignoring it or rejecting it, I mean, that is the fast track to unemployment, all right? So unfortunately, AI is here. It's here to stay, whether you like it or not. I always say, get used to using AI, right? And get really good at using AI, or otherwise AI is going to use you, okay? So make sure that, you know, as you're thinking about how to leverage AI within organizations, that you're really focused in on the people and the process side, because that's always where things fall apart. The technology is easy, right? It's the people that are difficult.